Okay, if you're just tuning in, you're still on to Democracy and the Rule of Law. The Coordinator of Defense Media Operations, Major General John Enenche, has said the Boko Haram insurgents no longer have authority over any part of the country, especially in the northeast where the insurgency once had a strong hold. He was speaking in the television program on Friday. He explained that what the country now has are remnants, a weakened enemy. Talking about Boko Haram and ISWAP fighters. Do you agree with that statement?
Well, based on the information we're hearing, and the series of attacks from all parts of the northeast region, that statement is very doubtful, because we hear now that the only major highway to linking Maiduguri to other parts of the country is the Maiduguri highway. We have heard stories of people saying that they had to pay to even harvest their crops. We have seen attacks in different parts of the northeast. The governor of Borno State, for example, was particularly crying in few months ago. I think around early December or November. In fact, at some point he even said we should engage. Local hunters. Not just hunters, we should engage mercenaries. I mean, why do you want to engage mercenaries if all you have is just remnants of, there was even a time we had a meeting with, Cameroonian or Nigerian soldiers and all of that. So the point is, one thing I have seen with this present administration is, the kind of information they put out there. We remember, even a few weeks or a few months after they came on board, they said Boko Haram has been technically defeated.
I think this is more or less the same statement.
As much as
they didn't want to say it categorically.
Yes, as much as this is something you said how many years ago, and up to today, there's still a question as to whether or not you have actually defeated them. There are members of the Senate from that region who were crying. I saw them in November, crying, saying that, in some cases they can't go to their local government, they can't go to their villages. So, yes, I would be happy if, we can successfully defeat Boko Haram and, let our people in that region go back to their homes and, so that, because it's affecting the whole country. Because right now, I don't know whether people are getting the message. A lot of the kidnapping all across the country is being done by Boko Haram to fund these operations. Because you hear, recently in my own local government, not far from my village, there was a kidnapping on the expressway. And my people they told me that, look, these people they look like people from that part of the country. Now, I believe, I'm not a security expert, but I believe that it's part of the ways in which they fund these operations. And so it's affecting everybody. So I would be happy if the thing comes to an end. But don't mislead people. Don't, we have had cases where they will say, oh, go home, and then you go home, they burn up the whole, kill everybody in the community, sack churches, sack mosques, because government is giving out wrong information. So, we shouldn't just be in a hurry to put out statements. Our statements should be matched by action. People should be seeing that, Boko Haram is being decimated, and with the kind of strength that our military has. Perhaps because they are only, let me not conclude that they are only good at fighting civilians. Because if you mobilize the military to Lagos now, everything will quench. We have seen them in the southeast with all kinds of operations. You can't move around.
I mean, these guys are not civilians.
Why is this so hard? Why is this so hard to dislodge the Boko Haram? At some point, they said they have taken over Sambisa Forest. I don't know what has happened to that now. So this government just likes to tell us. They want to claim victories and take credit. I mean, it's good enough you can take the credit, but make sure that people are safe. Make sure people are safe. Make sure the job is done before you start claiming credit.
Unfortunately, another thing wrong with this statement, as a lot of people have pointed out, that the security issue here now is now bigger than Boko Haram. It's no longer like a Boko Haram thing. I mean, there are so many other things. I mean, there are kidnappers. Kidnapping has been on the rise for some months now, and some of these kidnappings are not perpetrated by Boko Haram, as in if the information we got from the last kidnapping of the Kankara boys is anything to go by, so what do you think about that?
That statement is one unfortunate statement I'll describe as. a statement that should not be coming from a man of that caliber. Because this is a fight that has taken so long.
Long before this administration?
Yes, before this administration came on board. The fight against Boko Haram should be around 10 years now, or thereabout.
Yeah, 10 years.
Should be around 10 years now. So, if as a military formation, you cannot defeat what was described as a ragtag Boko Haram fighters in the span of 10 years, then of what use is this statement to the entire country? We have given a mandate. I'm talking about Nigerians have given a mandate to the military to wipe out the Boko Haram insurgents wherever they are hiding. So the way and manner you do the job has also been provided by the citizens, because the government is acting on behalf of the citizens. Funds have been released, machineries have been bought, equipment and stuff like that have been bought and given to the military. All we need is result. And what is the result we're expecting? Eradicate these people completely. This issue of decimation, they have been weakened. There are all manner of phrases. It's not what we want. We want to live a peaceful life in Nigeria. So if the military can give us that, I mean, we'll praise them. But at the moment, we cannot say that the military has done its bidding as far as our expectations about their job is concerned. So it is not statements that we need. It is not whether they are still holding sway or they have taken control of the entire Northeast or the entire northern region or the entire country. No, that is not what we're after at the moment. Look, at this moment, I tell you, even with this statement, you can't easily apply Damaturu and Maiduguri. That road, you can't easily. The moment it is 3 p.m., you dare not. You dare not pass Damaturu to Maiduguri at the moment. So what is the military saying? Are there no military men on the road? What is happening? I think there is more to this fight than we, the ordinary citizens, are saying, or what we're hearing. Because ordinarily, it is not the issue of whether they are still holding control, taking control of certain parts of the country. No. We want to live in peace.
Okay, the call for the sack of the service chief have been growing louder and louder by the day. Do you think this statement is to pacify Nigerians, to kind of, okay, there's no reason for this service chief to be sacked any longer because we are succeeding in the fight against insurgency?
Well, it might be, but the point is that the statement does not help anybody. Just like my friend has said, we've been hearing all these kind of statements. We have defeated Boko Haram. We have technically defeated them. So I think the service chiefs perhaps needs to go, so that fresh, injection of ideas and personnel can come in.
But we keep hearing. I mean, if a lot of people have concluded, and rightly so, that the leadership problem in Nigeria is not just at the top, it's even from the grassroots. So what makes you think, because these people went through the same system, and the people under them have gone through the same system, what make you think that if these people are sacked, the other ones that will come in will do something different from what their bosses have done?
Leadership is key. And I think because of the kind of leadership we have been faced with in this country, where sometimes we downplay the place of leadership. Leadership can make a lot of difference. Yeah. We have seen even in football, for example, where teams are almost going on extinction, and a new coach will come around and turn things around within a few days, within a week. Leadership is important. The rank and file of the military, for example, do they have the right motivation right now? Because we have seen a lot of, people have talked about the fact that even the funds and the equipment that my friend talked about that has been provided. I understand there was $1 billion loans and all of those monies that we have been getting. The rank and file of the military, they are complaining that they are not being motivated. In some cases, some complain about, you know, of no food, you know, being deployed to bushes and other places without support.
It's also been complained that the weapons that these terrorists use are much more sophisticated than.
I read the documentary of one of a military officer the other time, who the military is still owing, and you know, it was only recently that the guy was released because he was convicted by the court martial and all of that. What happened? They were sent to fight in the forest, and they were promised air support. The air support never came, and almost every officer there was decimated. What is happening? So for me, this raises, and of course I must agree that the leadership problem we have is beyond just
the people at the top.
The army chiefs, because you also the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. You know, you are the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And one thing is that people, I don't know whether it's fear or maybe the way the Nigerian system works, we always excuse this president for everything. But you're the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Everything stops at your table. Under the Constitution, if you look at section 271, 278, 279, you are the leader of the military. You are supposed to be the leader of the military. So if the rank and file of the military keep complaining about the fact that there's lack of motivation, and yet you are getting money from the National Assembly, budgets are being written every day, equipments are being purchased, then something is wrong. So leadership from the presidency up to the service chief, something is not right. Because
and especially presidency, that was a former military general.
Exactly. That was the assurance that, you know, some people got. That look, with the way Boko Haram was operating then, you know they were trying to announce themselves, releasing bombs and all that, because they were trying to get attention and all of that. And then we said, look, if a military general, somebody who many people see as a no-nonsense general, if you come in, you are going to mobilize the military and get the job done. In fact, he even said he was going to lead it from the front. We have never seen him anywhere. No talk of the front. Not even he's not at the back. No talk of the front, because I've never seen him go to. He hardly go. Has he ever gone to all those places where these things are happening? There's a lot leadership can do, and something is not right with leadership. You know, right from the presidency to the service chiefs, because you hear stories. Why is it so hard to remove them? Why? This is not the first time. I mean, I'm old enough to know that there has been a lot of leadership change, you know, for the military on many occasions. Sometimes it doesn't take 1 or 2 years, 4 years, and they remove them. Why are they not removing them?
So what can be done, you know, to help this presidency and the service chiefs, as it were, to, you know, especially on the lawmakers' side? I know they've invited the presidents to the House and they refused to show, but is there any other channel, is there any other way, you know, they can help? Laws, or probably, well, if the president won't come to them, let them go to the president, because this is not the time for pride or power struggle at this time, because this insecurity needs to be nipped in the bud and fast.
One of our major problems, and we'll continue to have our problems in this country unresolved. Why do I say so? It's very simple. We Nigerians, or a substantial number of Nigerians, I would say, are corrupt, especially those in the public service. So no matter how we sing up and down, we will never get answers to our problems.
And the corruption is not at the top, it starts from the bottom.
It's everywhere.
Unfortunately.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. So until we're able to kill corruption completely, or at least to an extent, we won't get anything right in this country. And that's the basic fact. If you look at what is happening in the military cycle, for instance, for those who are close to the military or are in the military, you will discover that the level of corruption in the military is massive.
So massive.
And this is giving birth to all these things you are seeing happening in the country today, in the security sector. The rank and file, you promise them money. They are willing to sacrifice, because for every military man, for every person who has joined the military, has taken an oath to sacrifice his life for the country. This man has a family, he needs motivation. But you discover that the man goes to war, he is killed, and the next thing is the family is kicked out of the barracks with no place to call home, no shelter.
And the other military men are seeing this.
Are seeing it. And it's happening. So what do you do? So the next thing is, An Oga comes to you and says, okay, I'll take you somewhere. You are going to fight, but watch out. You wouldn't know what the Oga has agreed with the terrorist. You wouldn't know. So everything is possible in Nigeria at the moment because of corruption. Everybody needs money. Money, 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 and money. So most of the people who are charged with public duties have completely abandoned the public duty and are now chasing money. You talk about the Senate. Said, what will the Senate do differently? If the president refuses to come to the Senate should go to the president. Even if they go meet the president. I tell you, they laugh over these very serious issues that you and I are talking about here. Because they know that most of these things will hardly get to them and their families. Those who are at the receiving end are the proletariat, are the poor masses who have nowhere to go, who have no funds. So there is nothing that the Senate can do differently. I mean, if you talk about, okay, let's even budget money for this and that, before the money gets to where it is supposed to be utilized, I mean, what gets there is very little.
Unfortunately, time is really against us. I have about 5 minutes to treat the next topic, which is members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria Shrine Group has renewed their demand for the release of the embattled leader Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, his wife, and other members of the group still in detention. Now, we keep talking about the rule of law here. So what do you think is the deal between this man and the federal government? I mean, what we keep hearing is national security. But then again, we have a judiciary that have said, let this man go. So what do you think is going on?
This is part of the problem we have in this country, where our institutions don't work. I'm a lawyer. There has been a lot of orders and decisions you will get from courts, and it's almost like it was a waste. The effort was wasted because you can't get the people to have the benefit of those orders, and the judiciary is not able to enforce these orders because you're supposed to have the executive doing so. And you know, unfortunately, when it comes to human rights violations, the complaints are usually against the executive arm of government. And so, who is now going to fight to ensure that the orders that the courts have made can be enforced? So that's the challenge we have. And unfortunately, it has become so rampant with this administration. I'm not a fan of El-Zakzaky's group and their modus operandi. But the rule of law, I don't have to like you to, to say that people should do things in accordance. That is how you can have a sane society. Otherwise, it will be the rule of who is stronger, and there will be anarchy and lawlessness everywhere, And I can tell you for free that it is not just El-Zakzaky and his group that is at the receiving end. There are people on the street. People don't even trust lawyers anymore to say, oh, when my rights are violated, let me rush to a lawyer. Because they would rather go and pay the police officers to solve their problem. They would rather go and use self-help. Because in some cases, they get judgments, or even when they file actions, the system cannot, give them what is do justice by them. So it's a problem. And unfortunately, you are supposed to have National Assembly checkmating some of these things. And but unfortunately, you have this National Assembly that is actually tied to the executive arm of government, because everybody, like my friend has said, there's so much corruption and everybody wants money. Because if not that everybody wants money, why can't the National Assembly ask questions on these issues? They have a Human Rights Committee, for example, that can constitute a public hearing, or so to say, on these issues. And so, because we talked about Boko Haram, for example, and the corruption in the system and all of that. But why can't the National Assembly, stand up for the people? Because the National Assembly, to a very large extent, ordinarily should be able to stand for the people, because they represent different groups, different parts of the country. Unlike a president who's just one person. But unfortunately, the National Assembly has failed, and this is the thing we're talking about in the U.S., for example. The institutions are not working. You saw in the U.S., even judges appointed by the president stood against the president and said, look, all this you are saying, you have not proved, there's no proof. But we don't have that here. The Senate, nobody's talking about it. The House of Representatives, nobody's talking about it. The only thing they talk about in these places are things that will give them money.
It's unfortunate. Just like what he just mentioned, the U.S. I mean, the reason why the court have asked the DSS or whoever is in charge to release this man because they've not been able to prove anything against him. So why keep holding him if you can't prove? So the issue now is, how do we empower the judiciary to be able to carry out stuff like this without having to depend on the executive to carry out this order?
Well, it's a big question, and given the Nigerian context, it is pretty difficult for you to have an independent judiciary.
Okay.
In other climes, yes, it's possible. Like in the American system, it's possible. But in the Nigerian system, it is practically impossible to have an independent judiciary.
So is it like a constitutional thing? Does it have to tweak the constitution to
it is a system
give the
thing.
judiciary more power?
It is a system thing. The judiciary has its powers. You know, the constitution has said that, oh, it's the courts that have the powers to adjudicate when there are disputes between individuals or between the individuals and the federal government or between states and the federal government. Yes, it is the courts who have the power. Section 6, very clear. It is the court who have the power. But once the court churns out judgments, it is to be executed by the executive arm of government. And who are the executive arm of government to execute? The police, the law enforcement agents. And they are not willing to carry out these judgments. And the Senate is not doing anything. And the judiciary that has already given its judgment cannot cannot sanction the executive for refusing to do its job.
Okay, maybe that's where they need to look at now, the sanctions, when the executive refuse to do what the court have said.
The only sanction you can have is to recourse to the National Assembly, because it's an abuse of office if you violate, the orders of court.
Certainly,
it's an abuse of office. It's an impeachable offense.
Okay, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we don't have time to talk anymore. Thank you so much for being part of the program today, Barrister Elvis Asia. Thank you so much for coming.
Nice to
and Barrister Adamo, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Hope to see more of you on this program. Thank you so much for being part of the program today. Democracy and the Rule of Law. Next week, Sunday, is another day on Galaxy Television, 1 o'clock. I'm Solomon Offen. Good afternoon.